But thank you to everyone for joining this Toto community webinar. So the idea of these webinars is to show off best practice and to allow you to go behind the scenes on some excellent Toto sites to help you get ideas for your own sites. So today we're joined by Indre, who's Head of Learning Technologies at the IPA. And Indre is going to walk us through a project that was done in collaboration with Kineo here in the UK. So as we go, you can ask questions in the chat, and when there's an opportunity, Indre will be answering those, as well as at the end of the session. So thanks a lot, Indre, and you're welcome to start when you're ready.
Well, thank you, Matt. As Matt explained, in this webinar, we'll take you through our case study that won Totara Best Non-for-Profit Project in 2018. It was commissioned by us, the IPA, and delivered by Kineo team in Brighton, UK. So my name is Indra. I am Head of Learning Technologies at the IPA, and I predominantly oversee the output and operations of our industry-leading and award-winning online qualifications portfolio, both in the UK and globally. And my role is predominantly to ensure that IPA delivers learning that remains relevant in our ever-changing industry and is technologically ready for today's learners' expectations. And I'll tell you more about that later in my presentation. So just a little bit of what I'll cover in this webinar. Just a tiny bit about who the IPA is, the challenges we were facing with our online learning management system and the way the learning was delivered, what we improved with Totara Learn, how we saved over £100,000, and how we are planning to increase our learner numbers by at least tenfold. So who's IPA? I'm sad to say I'm not working for a beer brand. I am working, however, for the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising, who is now incorporated by Royal Charter and is widely recognized as the world's most professional body for practitioners in advertising and marketing communications. IPA has, we do quite a lot of things, and one of them, one of the key things that we do is thought leadership, best practice, and continuous professional development, and hence why I'm doing this presentation here for you today. Our award-winning online qualifications program has been running since 2003, and we have had over 27,000 individuals who actually graduated from one of our qualifications globally. And our program is currently live in quite many number of countries around the world. To name a few, for example, Australia, New Zealand, across America, South Africa, and Northern Africa, Middle East and Asia regions, and of course all across Europe as well. It's a bit closer. So 16 years ago, IPA pioneered online learning within advertising industry education. We were deemed forward-looking and innovative training provider that delivered accessible content for the practitioners by the practitioners in advertising. And although our unique selling proposition didn't change since then, which is for members by members, the proprietary platform we use to deliver qualifications no longer delivered the user experience that today learner needs or expects, really. It was slow, the learning, the platform, everything. It did not keep up with the evolution of devices used by learners. It didn't work, it only worked on the desktop device, etc. And most importantly, it did not offer my team the ability to manage our own learners and qualifications. Anything that we needed to change, create a new course, update a spelling error, we had to go through our previous provider, which was costly and time-wise and money-wise, so it wasn't ideal, and it was something that we wanted to move away from. When we initially were scoping this project back in 2019, one of the main considerations for us was our flagship qualification called the IPA Foundation Certificate and its learners. This qualification is designed to educate and induct all new starters in advertising and marketing communications industry. We're currently seeing about 97% of them in our member organizations complete this program. So we're seeing that we've reached the penetration. So therefore, this program really informed a lot of the development decisions we made during this project. Just to give you a bit of a scope, this program has seen over 17,000 people graduate from foundation certificate. It attracts about 1,200 learners in the UK and another 500 learners globally a year. So as you can see, it makes up about 60% of our learners overall. Therefore, it was quite important that we listen to our learner feedback from this program to inform how the new learning management system, TotalLearn, would look like. So the feedback for the program called for less repetition, more conciseness, better representation of the integrated media world we operate in, as well as more accessible on-the-go learning. But there were some things that we, my team, needed to change to help support learners. Well, first of all, as I said to you before, we didn't have any. We wanted more autonomy to manage platforms and manage content. The technology needed to allow IPA team to be more agile. Most of our content that we teach to practitioners in advertising is very volatile, changes a lot. We needed to ensure that we are not seen as an old textbook where you can't update it as regularly. We wanted to be seen as someone who's really keeping up with all the changes that are happening. We also wanted to build our capabilities to use tools, templates, etc. We really needed more reliable IT. There was quite a lot of time spent on troubleshooting learner issues previously. We wanted to move away from that. We also needed a more streamlined online examination. We did use a separate program to deliver those, but what we felt, it offered a completely different experience for our learner. There were times where the data has been lost due to integrations. Therefore, we wanted to ensure that we move on to something that is more robust and sufficient. And we also needed a solution to deliver our program to learners globally. So over the next couple of slides, I'll take you through some of our requirements and the solutions that were built by Kinean team to address those. As I said to you before, one of the key requirements were to have multiple versions of the course content and the ability to scale up to meet the demand. As I mentioned to you before, we have learners in over 87 countries around the world. And although fundamentally all our qualifications are delivered in English, there are some local content aspects that we wanted our learners to benefit from. And we needed a functionality where we're able to serve that specific content without having to, recreate courses and programs for those countries. Imagine if we had to do that. I have a portfolio of 8 qualifications in 87 countries. That's a sort of an unimaginable amount of courses to manage. So the solution was quite simple. It was to design and tailor TotalLearn with localization in mind. TotalLearn and Actually Learning. What we did, we make sure that any volatile content or very local specific content is not delivered in a way that is too difficult for us to update and adapt. But we also what we used was managing learners on multiple intakes and location. We used different courses and programs functionality, as well as groups and restrictions to allow that. Another requirement was to have an online exam option for the UK as well as global learners. This is an image from one of our London exams. In London, we see about 1,000 people go through the day, come to us to take the exam across one day, with the other 200 around the UK. And we needed a solution that could easily replicate this exam. And I have to be honest, we haven't yet done the exam on such scale online, but there was another aspect of the exam paper that we wanted to replicate. This exam is not a multiple choice exam, is an essay-based assignment where an individual has an option to choose what questions they want to answer. So they have to complete 5 out of 10 questions. So we wanted to really replicate that, and we couldn't introduce a multiple choice exam instead of that, as we wanted to have the same learners having the same experience online versus offline. So what we did, the solution was adopting an unused functionality in existing TotalLearn. Here you will see, if I pause, this, we introduced a new type of question, which allowed learners to see all the questions in one, in one go, and navigate between those and choose the one they want to answer. This really replicated the exam paper quite well, and it's working quite well for us, so, which is great. Another requirement was to provide mobile access via native app and responsive design for learners to access the learning via browser. As I probably alluded to you earlier, our learners, the new starters in the industry, they're really, we call them digital natives. They probably, they can't remember the time, as they haven't been born yet, without the internet, without actually, having an iPhone, etc., etc. So they're expecting this experience. And we needed a solution that really could do that for us. We wanted, to adapt the programs to ensure that our time for audience can optimize their time as much as they can and study, on the go, etc. So what we did, the first solution was reliance on the responsive theme framework for other browsers, to ensure that it works on the latest devices, but also adoption of the Moodle app. This is just our sort of short video on how to use an app. What we are to ensure that we listen to our learner feedback. What we did and are doing moving forward is that every single qualification that has been redesigned since we introduced TotalLearn are mobile first. This approach means that all the learning resources are now available on the app, except for obviously online exams, as this is not something that we recommend them doing online on the phone. Another requirement was improving the performance of delivery platforms and content load time. Better hosting and support models freed the team to really, from continual troubleshooting, as I mentioned to you before, to allow more time to devote to our learners and facilitate social learning and communities. And this video that you just seen is just an example of a discussion that we tailored. So we tailored Tutora forums slightly to enable us to service our learners better. And this is just one of the examples of how engaged they are in the content, which is great. So we are quite lucky, we can spend more time in actually engaging with the learners instead of having to, fix their problems every time. but obviously to add to that, we also have more resource to develop better products. So what you're seeing here is course progression and isotope menu that we introduced for our within our TOTRA, but also the course progress aggregator. Sorry, not the course, the program progress aggregator that aggregates all the courses within the program progress. So here it is, if you've just seen it. It works really well for SCOM objects as well as files, and it's really quite a good tool for our learners to see where they are through the program, as well as for their training managers, as they play quite an important role to help them study towards the final exam. Another requirement was to simplify content management process and work with partner Kineo to enable knowledge transfer. As I said to you before, the previous provider, this was not encouraged, and we found having to ask them to do everything, from a small course setup job to updating a spelling error in a learning asset. And this is something I'm quite proud of. Here you're seeing a code snippet from the Adapt authoring tool that myself and my team learn how to use, which meant that that we are now capable of, content curation and updates and everything else, and obviously learn how to use TOTRA and pretty much everything to do with our courses and qualifications, which is fantastic. This allowed us to become more agile and become autonomous from our partner, which is great. And our final requirement was to improve global learner feedback for foundation certificate based on past scores. A little bit later in the presentation, you will see a chart comparing the intake since launch with the previous intakes. But the next slide, I think, summarizes what our learners think and feel after having completed the program. This is a short clip that was submitted to us during one of our social media competitions to celebrate their success. So I think the solution was to make a solution better, and I think we did. And here's just two students celebrating their success. So in terms of project success criteria, if I could revisit them just to summarize it all, we wanted to produce a product that is technologically fit for today's learners' needs, that will reduce learner queries on any technical issues, build a seamless blended learning solution, and increase the percentage of delegates who rated it good, very good, or excellent, build a product build a functional product to enable us to scale up and service clients across the globe, and make annual updates cheaper to carry out by taking most of the content management in-house. As you can see from this chart, we are comparing learner feedback from 2016, 17, and 18 intakes. After we relaunched the program in 2018, you can see the positive feedback, the increase of positive feedback on both platform and the learning content, and the exam as well, which is great, which we're very happy about. Another sort of a little bit more unexpected result was saving over £100,000. Each qualification, what we sort of did a bit of calculation, in each bigger qualification that we have, that is over 35 hours of study, we're saving about £23,000 on each, doing the content updates ourselves. on top of that, there's another saving of just over £11,000 on the first line support, so in reduced support costs, which is great. Plus, on top of that, and I don't know whether I could put a figure on that or not, it's a morale boost for my team to learn the new skill set. Previously, we were more focused on customer support, project management. Loads of it is moving away, and we're changing and building capabilities within and becoming more focused on the actual content build side, which is quite exciting for us. Here's just some of the feedback that I picked, specifically focusing on the content platform, which I think are quite nice. I'll let you read that. And to move on to the future, what we do every year, every single program that we go through, we collect learner feedback. We're quite lucky. We get quite a high, response rate. About 50% of foundation certificate learners complete the survey, which is amazing. So they're keen, obviously, to give feedback to make sure that it gets better for the next iteration. And obviously, we do our best to listen to what they have to say. Sometimes there are limitations of what we can do. As you know, you can't, if it's a content feedback, we can't really include every single thing that they're asking. But sometimes it's financial as well. But our aim and goal is continuously improve learner experience, in whatever shape or form. What we're currently exploring is the recommended learning dashboard and the chatbot functionality to enhance the tutor role. For this program specifically, we have a tutor, dedicated tutor, who's available for learners via an email or during webinars, etc., or discussion boards. But we wanted, sometimes if the learner is abroad at a different time zone, it takes time for the tutor to respond, obviously, because she might be sleeping, etc. So we wanted to explore the chatbot functionality to really enhance the role and to enable us to make the learner feel that he's responded to quite quickly. Another really exciting thing is our export opportunities. And, we have been growing our program globally since 2012. And there's two ways we export our programs. One is through agencies directly, who perhaps sign learners in the markets or across the network around the world. But another is through sister organizations in different countries. And this is the area where we're still growing. And China Association, our sister organization in China, is one of them, and we're currently exploring a module that will allow us to deliver foundation certificate in Mandarin, so that's another challenge, to over 100,000 learners per year. So this is incredible. I think this will need another webinar on its own when I do actually have a solution for you, but it's something that we're working really hard towards. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to me. I hope it didn't feel too long, and do let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Indre. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. I can see quite a lot of people from Kineo in the audience as well, so maybe they can answer some questions as well.
Sweet.
Hi, David.
Support team. That's lovely.
Yeah, so if we don't have any questions now, though, we can feel free to post them into a forum in the community afterwards as well, and I'm sure we can come back to those questions.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Indre, for talking us through such an interesting project today. It was really great to hear from you and to learn all about this solution.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thanks a lot. So if you don't have any questions, we'll sort of let you all get back to work.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for joining today, and have a nice day. Thanks, Indre.
Bye.
Bye.